Hello, and thank you for joining the Seceon webinar. My name is William Toll, and I'm the VP of Marketing here at Seceon. We are recording this webinar, and we will send you a link to the recording after it's over. Today's webinar is short. It's just 30 minutes and 3 slides. And we're going to start with introductions, and we'll introduce the panelists and get the webinar started, which is a discussion with Keith and Tom, and we'll talk about the best practices for reporting security services, performance, and risks for MSPs and MSSPs. We'll introduce Seceon aiSecurity Score360 and Seceon aiSecurity BI360, and Tom will give a 5-minute demo. We hope to have time for Q&A at the end. And again, this recording will be shared on the Seceon blog.
This is Tom Ertl with Seceon, the SVP of Technical Sales and Strategic Accounts. I've been here for 5 to 6 years, and very happy to have a strategic partner of ours, Logically, here with Keith Johnson to help us hopefully provide some valuable insights to you into the marketplace and some of the capabilities that we're looking to add.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you, Seceon, for the opportunity to speak. Again, Keith Johnson. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Logically. I assumed that role in January of this year, 23. Last year, I served Logically as a Chief Security Officer. So I was in charge of not only the brand of Logically, but also the inner workings of the security posture for the organization, and also how we go to market with our customers around security. Prior to that, I was with Certant, which is an acquisition of Logically back in March of 21, where I was a Senior Director for Engineering. So I led out all the security services from an MSSP perspective that we solution and then give from an architecture topology towards our customers. So I've been in the space 25 years, from an MSP to also work 6 years at SonicWall as a architect and also as the director of the SEs, and then now at Logically for the last 4.
Great. Thank you, Tom. And I'm William Toll, the VP of Marketing here at Seceon. I've been running marketing and product teams in the B2B technology and cybersecurity space for more than 20 years. And today I'll be moderating. So let's get started with our webinar. And Tom and Keith, we will stop sharing and we'll begin the webinar. Great. So Keith, if you could turn your camera on, that'd be great. Our first question in this webinar today is for Keith and Tom. If you could please explain the best practice for reviewing with your clients, the way you communicate your cybersecurity risks for your clients, and any insights into the progress with the solutions that you're providing with your clients. Keith, if you could kick that off, that'd be great.
Yeah, no worries. And for William, for my camera, it says that the host has control of the camera. So if you could release that, I can enable that for the audience.
Okay.
And I'll watch for your update. In terms of how we kind of go to market from our solutions, in terms of security, we look at a customer journey when it comes to our customers, meaning that they come to us by a certain security posture, and we don't pretend that they are following any real best practices. We find that our customers are kind of on an evolution, if you will, of what their understanding is around security. It's much like frameworks. If you look at the industry, folks will gravitate towards buzzwords, whether it's SD-WAN, ZTNA, Zero Trust, or whatever. And what we find is that means a certain thing to a customer based on what their understanding is of the term. And so we spend a lot of time just not even really selling into a customer right out of the gate. It's more about education. If we're being the security advocates in the industry, then we should spend just as much time providing value to our customers as well as educating them on how to get better and get stronger, and allow them to move through a security posture that's based on something other than maybe what we say, because we also understand that they're coming to us from maybe some other MSPs, maybe they had an internal IT, and they were looking to themselves for the standards. And what we have found for ourselves in terms of how we approach a customer is to lean in to the industry. So what does the industry say that is best practice? For example, NIST provides really great frameworks. CISA provides really great frameworks. If you look at IDC and Forrester, they will tell you that customers ought to be monitoring their network and then having alerts then raised from that. So if we lean in to what the industry and other security advocates in the industry have said, then we no longer have to be in a position where this is what logically says. It's backed up, because we are able to then bring more of a forward-thinking thought leadership perspective into our customers that's based on a standard. So when we enter into a conversation with our customers, we try to baseline them to that standard. And it's really a rubric, if you will, for a matrix on good, better, best. And we realize that a customer also has budget that is of concern. We also understand that they have maybe some aged equipment, maybe aged policies and procedures. And so what we want to do is kind of figure out where they are and then be able to move them along at a pace that they're comfortable with from a budgeting perspective. But all along the way, educate them. So William, you had asked kind of what is our cadence to our customers. I will tell you, it probably starts with that education first. And then we quickly move to what we call kind of a BTR, or business technology review, whereby once we get them to a quiet place, meaning that maybe we have deployed our tools, maybe it's an agent on the endpoint, and we can start to get some data, some telemetry, then we can baseline them through a BTR, which means that we're not only reviewing what we're doing for them continually. There's nothing worse than having a customer that doesn't understand what it is they pay you for. So reports of evidence become very important. So, hey, we worked this many tickets for you. We've taken this many phone calls. Our SLAs are this, and we're matching to what our agreement had said. And oh, by the way, did you know? And it's really in those kind of conversations of did you know that I think we not only help them from a security posture perspective, but also identify opportunities for them to also have growth. And it's more about business outcomes, right? So it's less about price and product, and we move towards more of an experience from a customer service perspective towards an outcome that's mutual between us based on their budget. So again, starts monthly with the BTR, which is a technology review. It's made up of many elements, but it is also fraught with a lot of education to the customer on where we want to take them based on our best practices from the industry and our experience being an MSSP.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. And let me just chime in and say that we also have a cadence with our partners, right? So we meet with them, probably at worst case biweekly, and just go over, okay, so any issues they're having, updates on capabilities, and actually one of the things that is really important is we get their feedback on, issues they're having with their customers, maybe additional capabilities they're looking for, which honestly led to part of this webinar today. Some of the new things we've added was based on feedback from partners saying, hey, we could really use something like this. So thanks, Keith.
Of course.
That's great, guys. Keith, I'm curious, what are the biggest drivers that Logically has in sharing a cybersecurity score or a compliance posture management? And how do you communicate the value and why it's important for them?
Yeah, that's very interesting. So we ourselves, before we really kind of dive into a security score, really I look at it is the verbiage I use as far as our customers' health. So we all know what it's like to go to a doctor and them rank us on our health score, right? So you can log into, a My Chart of some sort, and they have said, hey, you've not visited us in a while, and therefore you're due for this. Or we've noticed that you've taken these types of medicines in the past. Are you still taking them? So therefore you end up with some type of score. And we do this often when we update our insurance each year from a health perspective. They're looking to saying, hey, how much exercise do you do? Do you drink? Do you smoke? All those things. And you end up with a rank. So we find that our customers are very similar in need when it comes to their everyday IT services. And so what we do is typically we'll look at, again, through the BTR, and then I'll throw out another term that we often use is QBR, which is a quarterly business review, where we're bringing additional thought leadership to the table. And then at those, what we'll end up doing is giving them some type of health score that says, hey, based on the assets that you have in your organization, how healthy are those from a sustainability perspective? You know, maybe you've got this much of end of life. Maybe you ought to be thinking about moving, you know, this aged equipment to the cloud because it would be better off for you from a long-term perspective. So if you look at just standard IT services, server, workstation, storage, you can glean some health. The other thing is also how much are they using us towards a certain thing? So for example, maybe 80% of the things that they call us for are around Office 365 issues. Well, maybe there's some training that can be done internally. So maybe the score that we give you is security awareness training becomes top of mind, and then we push that towards them in order to upload it, because maybe they've not gone through a holistic security awareness training initiative. And then if you pivot towards security, we also see that as a journey. A lot of acronyms in the industry, whether it's EDR, MDR, XDR, but if you look at it from that perspective, it really is unto itself a journey for the customer from a security perspective. So, Mr. Customer, yes, you need EDR because insurance says that you need EDR, and when you get your audit every year, that's an important piece. MDR can be additive to that. The way that we use stories. Stories seem to resonate. It's a good narrative, especially when you're looking at data on a screen. Help them understand. Again, education, I'd mentioned that earlier. So if we look at things like EDR, for example, really that's the alarm for your home. And that's just the thing that governs if someone walks in the door, it goes off, you know, there's a threat actor. What about a drive-by in the front yard where there's a van that pulls up? Well, EDR may not help there, but MDR would, because it's seeing between homes or in a neighborhood. So I look at it as a neighborhood watch, right? So an MDR allows me to, no matter the alarm company that you have, no matter what EDR that you have as a company, we can help from an MDR perspective because we look across all different EDRs. And if you layer an XDR, really that's the county police, right? So all these alarm companies are phoning home. They're giving alerts to the county police department. So at that point, then we need to take action, right? So XDR allows us from an automation perspective, maybe a mean time to remedy. How fast will the county police get to my home? They're measured, right? So that would be a measurement back from us as a SOC team to be able to say, hey, Mr. Customer, if we do see something from all your different assets, doesn't matter what they are, switches, firewalls, whatever, we're going to respond to you in X time. The question then becomes, where is the customer on that journey? So maybe they've done the investment for EDR, and then all of a sudden now they're talking about XDR. Well, we don't want to skip the middle. Or sometimes we'll get into conversations about, hey, I'm really interested in the XDR thing, but they've not taken care of the EDR, which is a very critical component. So you end up with a health score, William, as you had noticed. And you know, some of this is arbitrary. This is what we say. But if we back it up, like I mentioned, to industry standards, right, then we have a gauge by which we can give a customer health report and say, hey, look, you're a C right now. We'd like to move you to a B, and here's why, right? So customers always want to know the why. And if all we're doing is saying, because I say so, then we're not, like, I don't know how long that customer will stick around, right? But if we make them sticky because we're backing ourselves up by what other people say that are beyond us, meaning that, hey, there's a lot of great people, a lot of great experts in the industry. Here's what they're saying. Then it allows them to attach to us, not necessarily what the thing is on the bezel, right? So anybody can sell a product to a company. I know we've got a lot of great sellers that are probably on this call today, but in reality, customers want to see the value because that's how you hold on to them.
Right. That's a great answer.
Yeah, quick comment here, Keith. Your example of a story, right? Giving a story for the journey from AV, XDR, MDR, EDR, MDR, XDR is really important because when you're out there in the marketplace selling, everybody's saying similar things. The stories all sound the same, right? We can stop ransomware, right? So it's really important to help them understand the differences between those different pieces of functionality. So that was a great example you gave there.
Yeah, they
Keith,
resonate. So the goal is when you walk into a customer, and I don't want to lose sight of this, and I know you guys know this is important. Who am I speaking with may change the narrative by which I present. So, for example, am I talking to the chief recommender or am I talking to the decision maker? Right. So my questions and my ability to kind of paint a picture allows me to get to what the customer sees as important. Those pains, those gains. What is the impeding event that's causing them for our even conversation today? Like if I can nail those down and then map again, and I've been using the word journey, but it is very important because I want to map something that is of value to them to the business outcome, but it may change based on who I'm speaking with. And so I may speak differently to an IT group. I may speak differently to a networking group. I may speak different to a CEO. That's on purpose. But because each one of those people think differently about the things that they want to accomplish. My goal as an MSSP is to make sure that I'm painting a good picture that speaks to them, but also is across all three are telling the same story. Because if I don't, then they're going to walk away with confusion. And then at the end of it, when they start talking to each other, which will happen, then they'll hear different things. And that's not what I want. So again, I often know that, we need to make sure that we're pivoting with our narratives towards different audiences, but I'm also keenly aware that whoever touches them, I think of a zipper instead of a button. So if you've ever heard that terminology, it's how many folks can I attach to the organization? So if I lose one piece, if we all know zippers have teeth in them. So if I lose a teeth person, I still have a zipper. It will still operate because I've attached different people into that, from service, from sales, to maybe the NOC team who's interoperating with them. So we forge relationships, right, in that organization instead of being a button where I have a person. And if I lose that person, I lose that relationship, and then I lose that customer. So every interaction has to portray an experience that we're all mindful where the customer is on their journey, both from IT services, but also security. And then that way we can attune to the same story as we're talking to the customer. So we show a unique experience consistently all the time that can be backed up by SLAs and metrics, and then all rotates back down to their health score.
Great. Keith, do you feel that cyber insurance agents and compliance auditors, are they looking also for a common way to communicate and report on risk across all of their clients?
Yeah, they do, William. I will tell you, if anybody's been filling out insurance forms as of late, you better set aside a lot more time because they've gotten a lot lengthy. And I understand why. I mean, insurance companies now are being on the hook for paying out on ransomware because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And they understand that they before had been able to just take a customer attesting that they had certain types of solutions in place. So for example, 3 or 4 years ago, you would sign a checkbox that would say, do you have an EDR in place? And then they would accept that and move on. Now what we're seeing in the industry is the insurance agents are asking for evidence of an EDR. So that's pivoted towards maybe a screenshot to be provided, maybe a ticket that shows that it's been deployed. Maybe it's a policy that you have written that says, you move every time there's a new device that enters your network. This is your structure by which you would deploy this EDR. So it's almost like you're under a PCI audit, meaning that someone's coming in your organization and not only surveying, but also asking for evidence so that they can put that up so that if there is an incident one day, they have proof. right? That this, hey, you said that this was in place, but it's not. So now we have a way out of paying you for that ransom. So then it becomes, to your point, William, how can we meet these requirements all the time just through the general movement of a network, the general move of our security? And that is a trust but verify motion. Customers are really interesting because they will always, even though you may tell them something, they will always come back to you if there's a problem. So you may have told them 1,000 times that they need XDR, for example, and the needfulness of it and the reason why it's so powerful. Like, you're going to monitor all my stuff. But then when there's an incident, they're going to come back to you and say, why didn't you protect me? And it's kind of like you got to then have your own safeguards to prove that, yes, we had these conversations. If you remember, this is what XDR was for, but you elected because of other business outcomes, other ROI, that you couldn't do that. And so then there's common ground. But what I will tell you is insurance is a great way to have a deeper conversation because, again, now we're putting the emphasis on third party that says you have. Not just me as the MSP or MSSP says you have, insurance says you have. And because of that, then we could come to an agreement of, if you really value security, leaning into what insurance is saying will give you governance to things like XDR, things like security awareness training, things like patching, right? Backups in the cloud, that are air gapped. So those things become standards because the insurance companies, in order for you to get validated, you have to have these in place. So what we've seen is, don't go against insurance. Use them for the leverage that they give you to be able to get the customer on the right path and get them solidified so that when they do have an issue, it's controlled, it's mitigated, right? It's cornered off, quarantined.
Great. Thank you, Keith. I just want to remind the audience we are running a little late, but if you do have any questions, please put it in the chat. Now let's switch over to Tom Ertel. He's going to give a brief 5-minute demo. Tom.
Sure. William, pull up the slide.
Sure. Okay.
Don't go back one. Sorry. There you go. Thank you. All right. So I just want to give 1 minute, 2 minute stops on the platform itself, what Seceon is. Then we'll get into the new capabilities we talked about. So quickly, Seceon provides a security platform for MSPs, MSSPs to be able to deliver a cost-effective service and help meet those compliance needs that we've been talking about here. So how do we do that, right? Well, one of the key ways to help somebody provide services cost effectively is cut down on the human touch, right? Hiring and finding analysts is a very expensive proposition, and quite often you can't find them. So if you can cut down on the number of those needed, then you should be able to provide a more cost-effective solution. So what you see from this picture is, just briefly, across the top, you see all the things that we ingest. We want to see everything going on in your environment, DNS, all the firewall logs, all the network flows, logs and flows, and network information, cloud, everything, right? All your EDR data, all the way down to the database information. We want to see everything. We take it in as telemetry, we enrich it, and then we build a behavior model with that. So we have these engines on the right here, these ML and AI engines that actually take all that information, munch it down to a per host behavior model, right? So we see that a typical person logs in from a certain place at a certain time, talks to certain servers and so forth, right? Then we look for anomalies, right? That's the detections part here. We start to look for a host who had never done a scan before, all of a sudden did a scan today, went to a new server, went to a blacklisted site. All of those things are what we call threat indicators, which then build into an alert. And we don't raise an alert until we get to the point where we've seen enough and we think you need to take action. So all of that's happening in software in the background in real time. So you don't need analysts constantly looking across 5 tools. Again, another piece of this is all of these capabilities are built into one platform, one user interface, so you can go to one place and monitor everything. See all of your customers in a single screen. So once we detect something and we raise an alert, then we say, okay, now you need to take action. we actually have remediation built in at 3 levels, and at the highest level, auto remediation, where you can actually say, okay, you see a compromised credential, go ahead, shut down that user account, and it'll happen in real time. So fastest detection, fastest remediation. So, I mean, that's sort of just a quick snapshot of what we do. Obviously, I mentioned we have built-in compliance reporting so that, to meet the customer's needs. So now let's jump to, you can stop sharing, William. Let's jump to the new capabilities. Let's start with aiSecurity Score360. So, give me a second here to share my screen. I don't know if I shared. Okay, you seeing my screen?
Yeah, I have it, Tom.
Okay. Try to get this full screen here. Well, okay, so quickly, Keith did a great job talking about this a minute ago. But what this provides you is, if you think of like your credit score, right? This upper left box is basically showing you your credit score, right? So when a bank has to give a company or a person a loan, they want to check that and see, okay, is this person a good risk? To get insurance in nowadays, as Keith was talking about, the company needs some metric, something to look at to say, okay, how does this company compare? How, what do they have in place? What real capabilities they have in place to track their security risk, and what are they doing about it? So this is a new capability, aiSecurity Score360, that we've added. And what it does is it does a scan of your environment. A unique thing about it is we do a scan from the outside. So we're looking at all your interfaces, your firewall, the open ports, and so forth. But we also have a part of our infrastructure inside your network. So we can also then look internally at part of what's going on. So we get a very full picture of your security posture, and then we present it. So here again, you see, quickly a snapshot of what your particular security score looks like. The next phase here, and I'm not going to go through this entire thing. We've only got a couple of minutes, but this is a report that you can generate and have a dashboard you can go into and then turn into a report. So here we're showing these are the things that we're checking, right? So dark web scans, DNS masquerading, SSL misconfig, and so forth. All these things are being checked, and this is a unique way to show you where you stand. So on malicious threats, you can see this example is 212 out of 212, so great score. So on at misconfig, 104 or 170. So you kind of go around the graph here, and you can see where you stand in each one of these particular categories. And then what you can do, you can come here and you can look at your trending. Okay, so now I can see, and this is showing every day, but typically you would run this once a week. And what this is showing is, okay, here was my score, on 5/31. A week later, I get it there because now I can go in, I get this information. I can say, okay, I can start to work on these things. I can start to, close some of those SSL misconfigs and so forth. So, and slowly but surely, you can get that credit score up, and that will affect your ability to get insurance, and it might even minimize the cost in some way, shape, or form. So that's the security aiSecurity Score360. Again, I'm not going to go through the entire thing, but this will give you details on each one of the, so each one of these sections are detailed down below here with a description. You can drill down into specific things that were openings or issues in that particular area. Okay, so that's aiSecurity 360. Let's quickly pivot here to the aiSecurity, the BI360. So what this is it's giving you the ability to go in and create customized reports, customized dashboards. So if I want to go in and just say I want to make a new one, I want to make my own new dashboard, right? I come in here, create one, and now you can see I've got sort of a blank screen. I can go in and start to add anything I want. So I go into the list of all of the KPIs. Let's just take total critical alerts, add that. Okay, so we've got that up here. That's not real interesting, but let's pick another one. The point is you can create this with these things that are relevant for you and your customer. Just a second here. It's working away. I apologize. Come on.
While that's loading, Tom, I can tell you this particular feature, long requested. Really appreciate Seceon's thought leadership here to get this pulled through. Customers want customized dashboards. And the reason is not because they want a new pretty screen. They want the data to be relevant to their data, right? And so one of the powers of the platform really is that it can pull in logs and flows from all the different types of things. So you have a single pane of glass. So then it's about what can we learn, not necessarily putting alerts more behind other things, but what I will tell you is if you've got the data for the customer, how can we represent or they get it represented in a certain way that meets their business outcome? Like they want to have sightline to misconfigured DNS, for example, right? So that, going into different countries. That would be important for them. So it's more hygiene-oriented features than health, but having both of them in a customized dashboard really is a two-point powerful punch, right, from a customer perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. And again, so I could have continued to add whatever was relevant for my particular customer, my environment, and created this dashboard, and then save it, and it becomes a published dashboard. You can do the same thing with. Let me just open up. Got to move this thing out of the way. Okay, let's close this. Yes. Okay, so now let's add. Say I want to add a report. Come on. I want to add reports. Okay, same thing. What I do want to go in here is look for a published one. Come on, sorry guys, I apologize. I'm still relatively new at this, but let's just go in here. Okay, so here it's same thing, right? You can go in, you can create a report, and you can actually add text box, right? So I can say, all right, I'm sorry, I'm just looking for a particular one that I'm not finding here. But you can create a report that then will have all the details, so it can look just like that security dashboard, but it'll have descriptions. It'll actually show you, a description of what each one of these particular sections is. Something like this. And then one important thing about that report is that you can actually you can have those published and sent out to whoever you want on whatever frequency you want. So like once a month, once a week, once a month, you can have that sent out to, whoever is important at the customer, whoever needs to get that. All right. That's it for the demo. Hopefully that's a quick overview. We'd love to go into deeper detail with people if they're interested. And with that, I'll hand it back to William.
Great. Thanks, Tom. And thanks, Keith. Unfortunately, due to the delayed start there, we don't have time to get into the questions, but we'd be happy to answer any questions that you send to us. And I do want to thank once again, Keith Johnson from Logically and Tom Ertel from Seceon. This concludes our webinar. We thank you for your time and attendance, and we will be sending out a recording. So thank you very much. Goodbye.